Thanks very much. Actually, I thought I was in Kalgoorlie at one of their nightclubs, so I'll try not to do some songs from the West. So thanks very much for the invitation, and we'll whip through this quite quickly, so hopefully you've got some probing questions to ask us as we move through. We are listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, so I really need to mention that. We've got a market cap of around about $90 million. We've got some cash in the bank. We have a very, very clear vision and a path to go forward. We don't need to raise any capital to reach our final investment decision during next year. I guess the significance of our company is our major shareholder is HQC from China, who are in fact owned by China National Petroleum Corporation. CNPC are arguably one of the largest companies in the world. They own 86% of PetroChina and have selected our company as one of their investments because of our technology, and secondly because they want to showcase Gladstone LNG project using Australian technology and will support us as much as possible. We have other Australian shareholders. We've got about 6,500 shareholders in total. The company listed in 2004. The board is shown there, and of course if you go to our website you can get a little bit of our background and history. I mentioned briefly HQC from China. I guess the important things are three to note. One is that they have built every LNG receiving terminal in China since the early 2020s. Just finished one last week, in fact, at the port of Dalian in the northern part of China. Secondly, they have their own technology as well, but they've chosen our technology to complement theirs as they start to build up a global position for HQC. Their basic brief from CNPC is to become the leading EPC contractor in the world. That is, a company that can do the engineering, procurement and construction and guarantee the performance of their plant. I mentioned briefly at the beginning a little bit about CNPC. Obviously they're very large, and having them as a 20% shareholder clearly is very important. And I guess when people look at the investment story for the company, these guys paid 38 cents a share to invest. So I really do tell people that, look, if they're prepared at 38 cents, they're there for the long haul. I'm sure there's a lot of exciting things going to happen in our company in the short term. So our business model basically is to concentrate on developing mid-scale LNG projects. Now, you may be familiar with the larger companies that are building bigger and bigger trains, so people keep asking me, well, how can you actually be viable at mid-scale? Well, when we started the company back in 2002, 3 and 4, we set ourselves the target that could we do mid-size LNG projects at $30 oil. Now that was our benchmark, and I'm pleased to say today that we still try to achieve that goal as the downstream party. So we want to be down at that cost curve. And I really get annoyed about some of these larger companies, and they seem to be proud of the fact that they've just spent $45 billion. You know, the next guy comes out and said, oh, I've done better than you, I've spent $48 billion. And we're all about getting the costs down. And in this environment, you just have to do that. It's also proud to say that last week we got our first patent for our technology in Australia. We also have one patent in China. So now Australia has its own LNG liquefaction technology, and we're very proud of that. It's called the OSMR. There's nothing really spooky about it, except our technical guys have done a great job in putting together 3 known types of processes and equipment into a new package. We also have a very large shareholding in a company called Magasco, which is a New South Wales company in the CSG sector. And of course, we're out to develop our project at Fisherman's Landing. I'm sure you all know where Fisherman's Landing is, in the port of Gladstone. And I really would encourage you during your holidays maybe to mosey up to Gladstone and actually have a look what's happening up there. A lot of interesting things. Importantly for the company, we have a guaranteed capacity of 3 million tonnes, but our nameplate is a lot higher. I'm going to move quite quickly through this so we can get into some of the more meaty stuff soon. But hopefully next year we'll secure gas and the project will move forward. Well, here we are in Gladstone. We're the only mainland project in the city of Gladstone. All the other projects are located here on Curtis Island. And these are the projects you actually read about over here, where you've got Gladstone LNG, which is a Santos-led project. You've got Origin over here and AP LNG up here. You've got Queensland Gas, which is BG, and of course you've got the Arrow project down here, which is being developed in consortium by PetroChina and also Shell. So we have obviously a lot of unique advantages being on the mainland. It's already reclaimed land, and we're all about using that infrastructure. a quick shot of our site, and again, it's already reclaimed. That's where we'll build the plant, and we've got room to add additional trains over time. So using existing infrastructure is pretty critical at the end of the day. And that's what the project's going to look like at the end. Probably not quite as clean as that, but certainly it'll look pretty good. We haven't said very much about it, but one of the things that we've been able to achieve in the last 12 months is a complete redesign of the plant, so that in actual fact the complete plant itself will be onto 5 modules only. And we hear other people talk about modularising their plants, but they might be talking about 260 or 280 modules that come to the site. Well, we've got the whole plant onto 5. You can fit on one barge, ocean-going barge from China. We bring it down and we load it straight onto the site and obviously hook it up and commission it. The tank, however, obviously you can't do that. It's 180,000 cubic metres, so it's a very large tank. But we only need 267 people to complete that tank. So we're not talking about thousands of people. And this also, of course, assists in getting the economics down. There are a number of liquefaction technologies, but I guess that's more appropriate for those that are engineers and love to chat about it. But I guess the most important message to leave on that is that we can, in fact, upscale our technology to the larger size if we choose. The technology, however, is important for Australia, and we believe that newer projects will start to apply and use this technology. We've really just got 3 separately proven features, but we put them all together. I guess the outcome that we're looking for is to use the low capital approach, but also the high efficiency. And I'm pleased to say that our greenhouse gas emissions are at the lowest of any liquefaction plant that's available in the globe today. And so we think that's a great achievement. A little bit on the cost comparison, and I notice some analysts here from one of the larger groups, and they all keep asking me about our capital cost. I think it's important just to note this slide. And you can see that the 3 larger projects in there are capex per tonne per train and where we sit on the cost curve. And we've really worked hard to try to make sure that we're comparing apples with apples. As you can see there that we're well under half the cost per tonne. And of course our greenhouse gas emissions are very, very good, and the amount of gas that we use in the plant itself. And these are very, very important drivers for our future of our company. I've mentioned briefly about the patents, and we have some already granted. This process does take quite a while, but we're pleased to see that those patent applications are now being granted on a global basis for the company. Well, I guess the most important question for those that know a little bit about the company is, look, you've got CNPC behind you to buy your product, you've got CNPC behind you that will build the plant. We're sure that they'll assist you in your project financing, but where is the gas coming from? And I guess that is why the share price is where it is compared with where it was 2 years ago at about 6 times higher than today's price. But we've been working very hard behind the scenes for the last 18 months to put our gas plan into effect. And basically we're concentrating very much in the area called Woolloombilla. For those that know, it's in the southern part of Queensland. And we are negotiating at the moment to buy gas there. And then we'll transport it up through an existing pipeline that will be expanded. So we're not trying to go into new areas and new landowner issues, but we'll use the existing infrastructure where we possibly can. Another part of our plan is to work with Magasco, where we are the largest shareholder in terms of some gas through to Ipswich, not just for export, but also to help them domestically in terms of providing gas for the domestic market, power, and for the communities, and also up near Gladstone where there's other gas that will be available in the future. So at the Woolloombilla Gas Hub, we've got something like 180 petajoules a year that we need to buy of gas. We're quite happy to buy some long-term, some medium-term, some short-term. There's a number of gas pipelines that flow through that area now and into the future. Similarly, up at Callide, there'll be up to 6 new pipelines all coming through to Gladstone from the various promoters. And as we keep saying to a few of them, just drop off a bit of gas on the way through, mate. And some of them are quite keen to do that for us. And I mentioned briefly about Ipswich, bringing some gas to the north. And of course, once you have that ability, you can start to trade molecules, which they do very, very extensively in the US. We don't do much of it here in Australia, but we think down the track this will become a very dominant feature of the energy market through gas swaps. A guy, for instance, will give you 200 petajoules for 2 years for your plant, but you've got to give him back 200 petajoules in, say, 3 years' time when he may need it for his project. Obviously, the outlook for LNG is still very, very positive. You can see on this graph just how it's dominated by the China demand. And we just see this, increasing almost exponentially. But it doesn't come at any price. And again, you've got to get yourself down on that cost curve. Look, the guys in the hard rock sector have done this extremely well. They've been fighting to get their costs down, so they are globally competitive. And if I can't produce LNG at an attractive price to export it to Asia, then they'll buy that LNG from somewhere else. Or they'll bring it in by overland pipeline from Russia or Siberia into China. And so you've got to be down on the cost curve, and that's one of the unique benefits of our company. So basically people say, well, what's in it for the shareholders? Well, at the end of the day, the way that we operate is that we look for a tolling fee. So we'll put our plant up there, we'll toll people's gas, and they simply pay us a fee on the way through. And very quickly, if you work out these maths, if we're producing 77 million units of energy, let's just use that description, that provides us with a revenue of around about $230 million a year. We're operating costs around about 50 to 60 cents. And so out of that, we get about $180, $190 million on an EBITDA basis. So it's a pretty impressive basis. That's just on one train. So clearly with your CapEx being only 20% of this sort of number for your second train and even a third train, you can see how lucrative it will be for shareholders in time. But the fundamental requirement for this project, of course, is to get the gas. And we're working very, very hard to achieve that goal in the next 1 or 2 months. So we do have some advantages. We've got the biggest company in the world voting in confidence in the technology in our model. They're also assisting us to secure gas by way of direct investment, and they are very confident, like ourselves, to reach final investment decision early next year. If we can achieve that goal, by the way, we'll actually be the first party to export LNG out of Gladstone. And yet you probably haven't heard much about our project. And that's one of the benefits of our business model, is to get to market very, very quickly. So that's our shared vision at the end of the day: get out and deliver the project and ensure, of course, in doing so, that the proper values are flowing through to your shareholders. A little bit about our logo. When we first formed the company, of course, everybody came up with flames, gas flames and blue and things like that. And so the guy from the agency said to me, "What sort of animal are you?" And I said, "I've got absolutely no idea. I'm sort of trying to survive." And he said, "Well, you're a lion, a leopard or whatever." And I said, "Well, I'm none of those." And he said, "Well, what do you actually do?" So we said, "Look, we liquefy gas." And those of you may know that when you liquefy gas, it makes it economic to transport from A to B. And in terms of weight to energy, it's 600 to 1 in the ratio. And he said, like an ant. So that's how it came about, that we came up with the red ant. And of course, people think it's a scorpion, and then the big elephants come along and reckon they'll step all over it. So we've had a few challenges along the way. But I think the important thing is our logo. And we've chose the red ant as our logo because it is distinctive and bold and represents strength, energy, hard work and perseverance. And these are, in fact, characteristics we aim to make trademarks of our corporate culture. Thank you very much.